firefighter. My hours are crazy. I can't leave him alone for days. A couple of hours is fine, sure. Not factoring in basic care and feeding, he's diabetic. It would be cruel, and as far as Liz is concerned, I think she likes watching him once in a while. She's a great girl, and she's sweet to Mac. I think she has a crush on him.
You mean she has a crush on you? Jake furrowed his brow, though he kept his focus on the road. I studied his profile, noting the light beard growth on his strong chin. His lackadaisical style was dangerously close to messy, but somehow it suited him. I had a very real compulsion to brush the back of my hand against his stubble jaw and feel the rough texture on my skin.
Well, do you?
Huh? Nice job daydreaming, I chided myself. I pulled my cell phone out of my bag in a harried motion, as though concerned I'd missed an urgent message from Beyoncé. If he called me out on my lack of attention, I'd blame it on her. I threw him an absent sideways glance I doubt fooled him for a moment.
I didn't lead her on. You know that, right?
I bit the inside of my cheek and nodded. Yes, I know.
Good. I don't go out of my way to advertise, but it's not in an effort to avoid being honest.
I believe you. I held up my hand. She's obviously infatuated with you. And Mac, of course, but definitely you. I agreed to this beach journey so I could give you a piece of my mind. Liz isn't just my employee, Jake. She's a friend, too. I didn't want her to get hurt by lies of omission or...
I didn't lie.
I'm not accusing you of anything. She figured it out anyway.
Oh? How?
His tone was nonchalant, but I sensed the steely element underneath the calm. I think she clued in when you didn't jump at her offer to accompany you on this fucking grand adventure to a pile of sand. And by the way, what is wrong with Santa Monica Beach? It's closer. Why on earth are we...
Shh. You'll see when we get there.
Are we almost there?
Yes, princess.
You know, I get the impression you think I'm a skinny, limp-wristed homo, Jake. Please tell me I'm wrong. I don't want to have to dust off my black belt and kick your ass. I kept my tone light as I sing-songed my threat. Jake chuckled softly. And this is funny how? I scowled. We'd finally pulled off the freeway and were stopped at a red light. Jake shifted in his seat and stared at me with an intensity I couldn't read.
Bran, I know you're strong. Very strong. You don't have to kick my ass to prove it to me.
Oh. I sucked in my bottom lip, feeling a bit overwhelmed. I knew he wasn't referring to the size of my muscles. I was strong within. I knew it, and plenty of my friends did also. There was something about hearing Jake Wesley, someone significant from my past, utter those words. It made my pulse hum excitedly. I couldn't have begun to decipher why, so I changed the topic to something mundane, like the weather. We reached our destination before I bored us to tears with speculation on the unlikely probability of springtime rain in L.A. The parking lot was located across the street from the beach and was practically deserted. I glanced at my watch. It was almost 7 p.m. No wonder. Late May meant there was still plenty of daylight, but most sane people were home eating dinner now, not frolicking at the beach. The incessant whimpering from the passenger in the back seat reminded me we were here for Mac, and Mac was really excited. He whined loudly and threw in an occasional bark when Jake parked and turned off the engine. When we unfastened our seatbelts, he was pacing from one end of the confined space to the other, as if looking feverishly for a means of escape. Someone's happy to be here, I noted, reaching back to pet Mac, who began barking like a madman. The sharp sound reverberated inside the SUV and in my head. Suddenly I was anxious to be outside, too.
Cool it,
Jake commanded. Mac went quiet and sat patiently waiting for release.
It's okay, buddy. You're here. Let's get your leash and ball. Want to go play?
Mac barked once and wagged his tail furiously. I laughed at his exuberance as I opened the door and stepped outside. It was a gorgeous evening. The sun was low and cast a soft light over the coast. There was a row of two-story homes on one side of Pacific Coast Highway and a wide expanse of sand and sea on the other. I gazed at the ocean. There were a few clouds dotting the horizon, which would make for a beautiful sunset. I smiled in spite of myself. I hadn't been interested in joining Jake and Mac in the slightest, but I was glad to be here now. I stretched my arms over my head and listened to Jake's calming voice telling Mac we were almost there. The panting dog excitedly brushed against my leg as if to say, "Let's go, Bran." He let out another round of barks and pulled his leash toward the ocean. "I've never heard him bark so much," I observed, as we crossed the wide boardwalk. "He's so quiet usually."
"Yeah, he's excited."
Jake grinned indulgently at the prancing lad beside him.
"He's like a wise old man who doesn't need to say much to get his point across anymore. He's learned over the years when to make a big deal and when it's best to stay silent."
"We should all be so wise," I mused as I took in the scenery. Seagulls dotted the sand, squawking as they foraged for dinner. There were a few joggers, walkers, and bicyclists on the path, but like the parking lot, the beach was largely deserted. When we approached the sand, I stopped.
"Wait. Take them off,"
Jake advised, instantly cluing into my distress.
"You can take off your socks too, roll up your pants, and voila, good to go."
I bit at my lip and looked out at the endless stretch of golden sand. I hated the beach, hated it. I may have lived in Southern California for years, but in no way had I become a fan. Most people found the ocean to be soothing, and the powerful waves to be a thing of beauty and a source of fun. They loved the feel of warm sun and the hot sand while they cavorted joyfully in the water with loved ones. Not me. I would never deny the primal beauty of the ocean, but it was far from relaxing to me. I wasn't a strong enough swimmer to enjoy body surfing, so I stayed away from the water. Plus, I was a skincare fanatic and listened to every health advisory official who suggested it was best to stay away from the sun's ultraviolet rays for extended periods. And let's be honest, sand was a menace. The smallest contact ensured you'd be bringing it home with you, in places you least expected. Don't even get me started on eating at the beach. I took a quick glance at Jake and Mac, and all my well-thought protests fell away. It was a pair of shoes, for fuck's sake. Expensive, but not priceless. I sighed heavily as I bent to remove them and my socks. When I lost my balance as I took off one sock, Jake steadied me, giving me his arm for support.
"Stay still. I'll help you."
He bent down on one knee and yanked my sock off before shoving it in my shoe. I was going to make a wisecrack about the care and treatment of fine things when I felt him fussing with the hem of my khaki pants. I watched, enchanted in spite of myself, as he inexpertly folded the fabric over a couple of times and then did the same to the other pant leg. The gesture made me grin like an idiot. When he finally stood in front of me, we were inches apart, smiling at each other. "Thank you," I said, feeling a little shy suddenly.
"You're welcome. Come on, let's go. Mac only has an hour before it gets dark. Let's let him play."
The second Mac was off leash, he made a mad dash toward the ocean. I was mesmerized by his graceful gait. I'd never seen the dog move so fast, and it was a thing of beauty. He looks 5 years younger. I cast my gaze between Mac bounding gleefully away and the uneven sand I was attempting to carefully traverse. I did my best not to allow my facial features to contort and show my true feelings at having the tiny, gritty grains between my toes. Ick.
"I know. He'll pay for it tomorrow, but..."
"How so?" Jake glanced at me briefly before turning his attention back to Mac, who was inches now from the water's edge.
"It's the same as with humans. It hurts when you run around trying to keep up with people half your age. I'm going to be 30 soon, and I know for a fact I can't play with the same intensity I did 10 years, hell, even 5 years ago, without paying for it the next day." Eventually, you clue in and slow down a bit. Mac's the same, except his memory is shit. He never remembers how sore he'll feel in the morning.
Jake chuckled softly. I forgot you're older than me. I kept my tone conversational, but Jake wasn't fooled. He nudged me playfully with his elbow and gave me a mock dirty look.
Yeah, by what? A few months? Yours is in October, right?
You remember that?
Of course. October 21st.
He remembered my birthday? I'm sure I looked like an idiot with my mouth wide open. I don't know why, but that seemed extraordinary. We hadn't seen each other in over a decade. How could he possibly recall a significant day for someone who hadn't been important to him in years?
Am I right?
His tone was neutral, purposefully casual. Yeah. Why do you know that? It's been eons. I forgot what I had for breakfast this morning already, but you can pull a date of my birthday out of nowhere? I shook my head incredulously, looking for the proper phrase.
Weird?
He supplied with a chagrined expression. He called to Mac, who stopped mid-run with his ears cocked, awaiting Jake's instruction. When he saw the tennis ball Jake had brought with him, he went nuts. He shifted from paw to paw like an overexcited kid choosing a prize at an arcade.
Watch this. There was a time my arm would be killing me, and he'd still want more. Now he can do this twice, maybe 3 times, before he poops out.
Jake cocked his right arm back and threw the ball over Mac's head. It landed in the wet sand and was instantly sucked into the ocean. Is he going after it in the water? Oh, shit. Not only am I barefoot in the sand, but I'm going to be stuck in a car with a smelly, wet dog for the half-hour ride home? I couldn't suppress the shudder this time, which only made Jake laugh.
You're particular, aren't you?
At least you didn't say peculiar. Are you going to answer my question? I grimaced at his blank stare. About my birthday, you said...
October 21st, the Battle of Trafalgar. Remember that day we were in the library studying for a history exam? We had to memorize all these dates having to do with Napoleon. When we came to October 21st, you told me it was also your birthday and we should call it Brandon Day so we both remember.
He shrugged as he watched his dog retrieve the ball from the ocean.
I never forgot.
Jake's handsome face broke out in a wide grin when Mac ran back in our direction with his prize in his mouth. I looked on, amused by his enthusiasm, but my mind traveled back in time 12 years ago, picturing 2 teenage boys, one a star athlete and the other the fabulous gay kid, sitting at a wooden table in the library surrounded by books and notes as we crammed for a test. Back then we'd used our common classes as a ruse to spend time together. Jake had played up his role of the dumb jock in need of some extra tutoring, while I pretended to be the guy for the job. It was so many years ago. A lifetime, really. But Jake's casual mention of our shared past made it seem like it wasn't so distant after all. I'd done my best to forget my past. I hated being reminded of things I couldn't change. I didn't do well processing sadness and loss. It's why I hadn't wanted anything to do with Jake. He represented a naivete I'd happily shed.
Again? Okay, here you go. Ready?
Get it, boy. Jake chucked the ball in the same direction he had before, and Mac chased after it merrily. And as simple as that, I was back in present time. Mac pounced on the ball before a large wave sent it into deeper waters. Then he paddled in the shallow depths before standing on the wet sand to shake off the excess moisture on his coat and make his way back to us. I noticed immediately he moved slower, definitely more of a walk than a run.
See? He's feeling it already. Want to sit for a couple minutes while he catches his breath?
I looked up and down the wide swath of sandy beach. The Queen Mary was docked to the north, and behind us the golden coastline glittered in the waning light. The sun would be setting soon, and the sky was resplendently gorgeous in shades of pink and red and orange. It was a lovely night.
Sure, where?